What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I am Jabril, and I'm with
Steve. How you guys doing?
And for you guys who have not seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, and we always like to start with the segment of what we've been playing. So, Steve, what have you been playing?
All right, so I've narrowed it down because I usually play so much right now during all this off time and things like that. But with the new Mortal Kombat Aftermath trailer that released for the DLC that's coming out at the end of the month, I re-sparked my interest in the Mortal Kombat, so I've gotten in there, messing around a little bit more with the DLC characters. I didn't touch too much. Sindel, Spawn is pretty cool, which I know I did the gameplay for the channel, but that was like my only time I ever played as him. So I'm in there doing towers, unlocking armors, trying to platinum it because I'm like right there. I just got some of the grindier ones to do, which is like do 100 brutalities or something ridiculous. I don't know why they thought that's okay. So I've been doing that, having a lot of fun with that. I stay offline because I'm not even trying to go on online for that because I'll probably get wrecked.
Is this a paid expansion?
So it is going to be a paid expansion. This is where I have a lot of problems. So Mortal Kombat, as usual fighters do, they usually have like a fighter pass, and then recently, super popular, do like new seasons to it. And we all knew that season 1 or the Combat Pass 1 ended, and we all knew season 2 was coming. I mean, Smash Brothers, everyone does a season 2 to fighting games now. This is the first time I've seen NetherRealms do not only another pass, but it's another like with a story edition. Like they're continuing the story where it ends and adding a whole, I don't know how much more story chapter. My only issue is it's a pretty pricey because right now it's only 3 more new characters, which is Fujin, RoboCop, and Shiva, the female Goro kind of character.
Yeah.
With the 4 arms. So it's right now it's just those 3 characters and the new story chapters, and it's $40. That's
what? Really?
$40 for just
wow.
They're calling it the Aftermath expansion.
That's like a whole nother game price.
So it's weird because they're doing a bundle. For $60, you get the base game, the Combat Pass 1 and the Aftermath trailer for $60. So I'm almost better off buying the complete package elsewhere and getting like maybe putting it on Switch or something, because it's available on Switch, even though the graphics are a little bit, downgraded.
Wonky.
Yeah, but I'm almost better off buying that new bundle on a different system to get my money's worth. Because $40 for I don't know how much story they're adding. I don't know if there's gonna be future characters that they haven't mentioned, because that's super steep. And I went to go pre-order it thinking max $30. $39.99. I just looked at it. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'll buy it when it maybe comes out, but that's super, super expensive.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of like critiques about like in this modern age of gaming, developers releasing games that are considered, unfinished or not dropping the full package, and like no one's more guilty of that than like fighters nowadays with their massive expansions, where like with BlazBlue games, like half the roster is not included in the base game anymore. But it makes me wonder, like, if you're going to pay $40, you better hope that they don't release too much after that point. Because if you spend $60 for the base game in this expansion, and then they drop another set of characters in a couple months or a year or something like that, that's an insane amount of investment on a single game.
Yeah, that's my thing. Because, so you can, obviously you can buy the characters separate, and they're usually like $5-6. That's like almost the standard for fighting games, and I play so many. So for $40, that'd be, quite a few characters. So I understand, again, they're putting the story chapters in, but all the other stuff that they're adding is going to be part of a free update on the same day. So they're adding like friendships back as the finisher move, as the fun finisher move.
I saw that.
New stages and a few little tweaks and stuff like that, but that's all going to be a free update on the same day. So they're not locking that stuff behind a paywall, which is why I'm thinking like I'm hoping there's probably more than those 3 characters included in this in a future release. Because that's just a lot. That's a lot. Like for $40, wow. You're thinking almost 8 characters or something like that. That's seems like a lot to me. Which is, I don't know. It's insane. It's insane. NetherRealms does have a good track record. I know, especially with Injustice 2 and now Mortal Kombat 11, they've gotten really. They're on that borderline where their microtransaction game is like right there before it's like super annoying, and super like paid to get pieces. So we gotta watch them out. That's why I'm worried about this $40 drop for maybe two. I don't know how many more chapters of the main game technically. So we'll see how. I'll keep you guys updated when that comes out. I believe it's May 26th, so it'll be way near the end of the month. So yeah, I've been playing that. Obviously, The Last of Us 2 got a new trailer, which was again sparked me up to be like, well, now that we have an official date, the game's gone gold. We got a new trailer. What's said has been said about it. I'm starting my new another playthrough to get ready for that, and that game still stands just so good. And the more I keep playing it, the more I wish it didn't have a sequel. And I know that's kind of I don't know, weird to say, and especially since I'm so excited for The Last of Us 2. At the same time, I'm wishing that the game, because so obviously I know what the ending's going to be of the first one. I just wish it didn't have a sequel. This game, I feel, stands so good as a just standalone title. The characters, I forget how close you get to like characters like Tess and Joel. You quickly get attached to, and like all these stories, cutscenes that I knew were gonna happen. What happens when Tess finds out? Spoiler alert for whoever hasn't played Last of Us 1. Go get on that. When Tess is infected and she pulls her thing and she stands her ground. Like all these cutscenes I still knew was coming, that I knew were coming, still hit me so impactfully, and that's just that's all due to Naughty Dog. Like that company knows what they're doing. They know how to do character development and stuff like that. And at the same time, it's got me even more excited for Last of Us 2. At the same time, I'm like, I hope they don't ruin it in any aspect. So I've been playing that, and just a little bit. For some reason, I've gotten into a thing where I've just been playing Smash Brothers Ultimate again.
Okay.
They haven't released a new character yet. I know that they're releasing one soon. I don't know what it is. To be honest, I started watching compilations of people freaking out when they lose at tournaments and like smashing the controls and stuff like that. And,
yeah, I love those.
And like falling off stage and flipping and they're like banging tables so hard that the Switch gets out of the dock. It's nuts. And in watching that, I kind of got the itch for Ultimate again. So I've been just playing like that, just random characters, just getting some of those little achievement things they have for that. So those are the three pretty big games I've been spreading myself across, just a little bit in everything like that, kind of just getting prepared for this new season of games we're getting.
We're getting there. It's almost there.
It's getting there. So we're right there. By the end of this month, everyone will start rolling with some big titles again. So what have you been playing?
Yeah, so I mentioned last week that I've been working my way through the Final Fantasy titles.
Mm-hmm.
Straight off of remake of 7, I was like, okay, well, I want to replay the original 7, and they're all reasonably priced on Switch, and again, they have all those upgrades, so it's well worth the money in my opinion. So I went through 7, and then I started 8, and 8 was the interesting thing is the fact that I didn't grow up with that game, so this was really my first time getting deep into it. I had dabbled with it on the PS1 as a kid when my friend had it, and it was really not my thing, so I kind of maybe played an hour or two and walked away. This time I just hit 5.5 hours, so I'm well into it with the upgrades and the 3x speed thing that actually brought me all the way to disc 2. So narratively, I'm pretty invested in the game at this point, and gotta announce, like, I gotta drop it. I can't with this game anymore. Like, I really can't. I gave it like a shot. I gave it my hardest shot, and again, this is no shade at anyone who like loves this game, because I know it does have its fans. And I don't want to crap on your guys' game. Like, I'm not going to say it's a bad game, because who am I to say that? Gaming is subjective. People can, but the systems and the story and the characters and just the moment-to-moment gameplay of it just did not resonate with me whatsoever. With exception for the really theatrical nature of some of, like, the cutscenes, which I thought was really interesting. There was, like, some interesting choreography, and there's kind of, like, a play-like, theater-like delivery in some of the cinematics that I thought was kind of interesting. Besides that, I mean, I really didn't like much of anything about this game. I didn't like the junctioning mechanic. I didn't really like any of the characters. The narrative didn't really seem that interesting to me. I wasn't interested in the protagonist, the antagonist, the way that summoning was. Just pretty much anything about the game I didn't like. And the deeper I got in, the more I realized that this is going to become a harder and harder game. And then when I found out it wasn't a 3-disc game, it was a 4-disc game, I was like, all right, this is going to be an issue. And then I finally hit a boss where what they're asking of me, I literally cannot deliver. I don't know what they want me to do, but it's this impossible boss when leaving a military base. And I gave it multiple tries. And I finally hit the point where, okay, I'm throwing on the God mode, the one that they offer, just so I can get past this, so I can keep it moving, because I want to get through the story, because there's multiple games I want to get through. I want to hit 9, 10, 12. I want to get through all these. So I'm like, I can't, lag on anything. And for the most part, I got through 7 with relative, not ease, but I played that game before, so I know, how to deal with that. But man, I could not beat this thing. And with 2 times on God mode, I still couldn't beat it. So I was like, you know what? If I lose one more time, this has got to get off my system. And I got to keep it pushing. If I can't beat it, I can't beat it. And I lost again. And I lost terribly. Like, I'm not even close. So I'm like, all right, got to get it off the console. And literally last night, straight to the eShop, bought 9. And installed it in my system, and I'm moving on to 9. And I'll probably maybe go on YouTube or something like that to watch the rest of the story or something like that, so I can see at least where it's going. But yeah, so I've been playing a lot of 8, but I had to move on from that, starting 9 now. I've also been working my way still through Blasphemous. Okay. And my progression through Blasphemous is very like Bloodborne and Castlevania-like, where it's like you're just trying to make it to that next save point. So I kind of like chip away at it here, little by little, a couple percentage here and there of the map uncovered each time, just trying to make it to the next point. Again, brutally difficult, but man, this game is awesome. I love this game. The deeper I get, I have seen some videos of like some of the late game bosses that I pretty much can guarantee I don't have the skill to beat. So I don't know what's gonna happen when I hit that point. But for the most part, I'm handling it pretty well. There's no level mechanic, there's no crazy upgrades other than like different items that might be able to help your progression a little bit, close again to like a Symphony of the Night type situation. And there's no kind of like difficulty slider, so you're not choosing like easy, normal, hard. It's just the game is what it is. So I'm making my way through it. It's a difficult game, but I really, really enjoy it, and I'm trying to see that way through. So I'm kind of in a nice rhythm of kind of going back and forth that, and still doing my daily upkeep for Animal Crossing. And I'm getting ready for that marriage season in June, which I have no clue what that entails, and I have slight discomfort towards the idea of, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Oh, and we have to mention Fortnite. All
right, yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, so they released a new mode called, what is it? Party Royale? Party
Royale.
And this is basically a social hub version, non-combative, not competition, just chilling with your friends, racing boats, dancing, that kind of situation. And it's good if you have like people who play Fortnite. If you don't have any friends who play Fortnite, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you're gonna do on there. But and they have like live events on Friday night, and it's a really interesting addition. It adds to the social mechanic. Not to mention they have a really young demographic, so like this is a perfect addition in the game for that demographic to play towards. That's the kind of people go on GTA to make it a social hub every day, so to have a concentrated mode for it makes all the sense in the world. And I'm actually really into modes like that, so I had to hop on there. I saw you on there. What do you think about this mode?
All right, so you had let me know a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was only 2 or 3 weeks ago, that they released this new mode, Party Royale, and you're like, yo, it's just a hangout. You just do stuff, no guns, nothing like that. In addition to normal gameplay, so Fortnite is Fortnite, the titan that it is. So obviously with the concert this past Friday, May 8th, right? Yeah, May 8th was Friday. Yeah. It was a couple DJs. I don't remember the first guy's name. I know Steve Aoki. I know Deadmau5 was there. Francis Dillon or something like that.
Dylan Francis.
Dylan Francis. I was close.
Very close.
So those 3 guys were there. So it was an interesting live event to do, because I've never really gone to any of these concerts. I didn't go when like Marshmello was doing his thing. I think he was like one of the bigger ones to first do it. I didn't go to the Travis Scott one because I didn't even know if I had Fortnite installed. I always keep.
There's a Major Lazer one too, I think.
Oh, a Major Lazer one was between or right before Travis Scott or something like that. I keep in touch with my brother, who's as you know, a diehard Fortnite fanatic. So anytime I have any question, I ask him, and he knows like the dates it was. So the mode is fun. It's interesting for people who don't want to go play, like do the actual fighting and stuff like that. It's nice to be able to jump in with your favorite costume, constantly change out right there with the phone booths, even though that was deactivated during the concert for server issues. But to be able to just kind of jump in there, do what you need to do, change costume to this, everyone starts putting their craziest costumes. You go to the little dance stage, and it's fun, and it makes more sense now than ever. I'm surprised they didn't. I mean, it depends. Obviously, it takes time to develop this stuff. With everyone at home, most of the time, Friday nights, you can't go out right now. Clubs, bars, restaurants, they're not open, so everyone's at home. So they'll go to a virtual dance club. It's kind of fun. I'm not one of those people who stay there for hours. I watched the first 2 acts, then I kind of jumped in when Deadmau5 was at the end on my phone just to see what songs he was playing. I think I actually liked Steve Aoki prior to this, so I was curious what his showcase was, and I liked him. I liked his music. I thought he did. Out of the 3, I liked him the best. I don't know if it's...
Was it a full set list that he performed? Because I left pretty early that night.
So you left pretty early. They all, I want to say, did about half an hour, roughly.
Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty cool. Okay, so full concert experience.
So it was a. That's my thing. That was a full concert experience you were able to experience for free. On
for free, yeah, that's pretty
devices.
Awesome.
That actual lineup would have cost you a pretty penny in real life.
That's basically a Coachella set for the most part.
Yeah, in addition to having to go find parking, pay for parking, this, and all this, travel to where it was.
And teenagers in person.
Yeah.
Which is its own set of issues.
Yeah, dealing with people. So I'm like, wow, I was like, this is cool. This is actually pretty cool. And, again, our little informant, my brother, is telling me that apparently there's a rumor that there's going to be another one this Friday. Apparently it's supposed to be Marshmallow again. I don't know. If it is, I'll jump in to get whatever cool free item. We got those cool glowing wings. But yeah, Fortnite's out there, and it's not only just going strong, but it's trying to reinvent itself. Not reinvent itself, but it's just adding more to the package. Where it's like, well, you have, if you wanted to pay for that story mode or whatever they call it, Save the World. Now you have the free-to-play Battle Royale. Now you have the free-to-play Create mode or something like that where you build things. Now you have Party Royale where you can kind of just chill, show off your costumes, dance moves, get those paints, ride boats, bikes, and all this kind of stuff. So it's going to keep growing. And everyone keeps saying, like, oh, when's Fortnite going to die? And when's the new Fortnite going to come? Not that I'm a huge diehard for Fortnite. I have huge respect for it. I like what it's done to a certain extent. But they're gonna, with these kind of add-ons, like, it's only a matter of time before they add just, like, a strict racing mode and, like...
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
Straight boat flying modes and stuff like that, and that's gonna keep people coming back because I'll come back and play a free-to-play racing mode where I can put my little dog outfit I have, my black and white dog outfit. Fortnite's out there strong. The Party Royale mode is gonna be just the start, I think, of this more casual play. Of course, you have the Ninja and all those people playing the super competitive stuff, but the casual play, I think, is really gonna start hooking people again.
Yeah, and not to mention, I think it's a really impressive thing they were able to do where it's like when people are playing your game, they put in, a couple hours, you get fatigued, you want to move on to a different game. And so you swap it out and you go play something else. And when you have a perpetual online, microtransaction-based economy of Fortnite, audience retention means everything. And the fact that literally you can have a player who plays, regular Battle Royale for a couple hours and be like, I'm tired, I want to play something else. And all you need to do is switch modes. You have entire different genre of game. You can go from PvE, and now there's like a social hub where you could just chill with your friends and decompress there. What like some people would go maybe to switch to Animal Crossing to have that kind of social experience with. You could stay in that game. This is essentially has taken what you would have one time gone to like a PlayStation Home to accomplish, and it's within your game. Audience retention is going through the roof. Not to mention, they've introduced another mode that incentivizes people to buy more stuff to look, enhance their looks. So, I mean, their strategy is genius. And again, if they're able to continue on this trajectory and just every year, every few months, every 6 months or so, introduce some kind of new mode to basically keep people from leaving the platform and staying on the platform and just being able to have a different experience on the platform. I mean, there's almost like no ability for anybody else to compete. And again, I am super sympathetic to the guys like with PUBG and stuff like that. But it's like, holy crap, man. Like, this thing is just a different level of game. And again, I'm by no means a Fortnite fanatic. I don't play it super often, but I got tremendous respect for it, even if it's not my type of game. Like, I mean, few people in the game industry have been able to do half of what they've done. And I mean, if you got to see, like, I mean, in terms of in that space, GTA's been able to compete, and then maybe you could say like Call of Duty's been able to hold their own. But man, they're talking about juggernauts are the only ones who are able to keep up with this level of success. So big shout out to them, man. It's impressive what they've been able to pull off.
Yeah, everything Epic is doing. It's a name that we're never gonna forget. I mean, it was in Avengers, so that's it's always gonna be a relic. It's gonna be one of those things that's always gonna be there.
Yeah, so I guess we can move on to our first big topic. We only have 2 topics this week, but they're pretty big topics, and we have 2 loose topics. Mm-hmm. So basically, this is kind of like an update / introduction to the controversy regarding the Doom soundtrack. Now, a few weeks back, there was controversy over the Australian composer Mick Gordon said that he wouldn't work with Doom again. Now, for you guys that don't know, there's been a lot of controversy about like where the official soundtrack for Doom Eternal is, why the mixing is in the shape it is. There's just been a lot of controversy because in Doom 2016, the OST was, beyond phenomenal. The mixing was just perfect, and Mick Gordon really established a name for him in the game industry through that. And so with Eternal, people are like, wait, what went wrong here? So, yeah, Mick Gordon saying he's not working with them again, and people immediately obviously look towards id and be like, what did you guys do? And so the software company behind Doom Eternal id have broken their silence about the game's official soundtrack, which was finally released a month after Doom Eternal came out, which is not a great look. Mm-hmm. In a statement posted... my screen's bugging out. All right, here we go. So, on a statement posted on the Doom subreddit, executive producer Marty Stratton wrote about a creative breakdown between id and composer Mick Gordon, who was unable to make his deadlines. As we hit April, we grew increasingly concerned about Mick delivering the OST to us on time. I personally asked our lead audio designer at id, Chad, to start working on id versions of these tracks, a backup plan should Mick not be able to deliver on some time. I've seen some people online, coming at Chad and saying that's shady. But again, if you have a strict deadline for the launch of a video game, not to mention in the middle of a crisis, you always need contingency plans because you do not want to delay the juggernaut that is Doom Eternal on a soundtrack. Yeah. Because of one person's inability to meet a deadline. You know what I mean? We're talking about massive companies here. They need contingent plans. They need plan Bs. So to complete this, Chad would need to take all the music as Mick has delivered for the game, edit the pieces together into tracks, and arrange those tracks into comprehensive OST. So basically, he was kind of like piecing and playing around with things to see if they would be able to make an OST out of what they'd received so far. After listening to the 9 tracks that Mick delivered, I wrote him that these tracks wouldn't meet the expectation of Doom or Mick fans. There was only one track with the type of heavy combat music people would expect, and the rest were kind of like ambient nature, kind of background chill music. Mick delivered 2 final tracks, which they were incorporated, and he wished us luck wrapping it up. So it seems like, according to what id says, that they were actually the ones that kind of got burned by Mick's inability to meet deadlines. Now, you could extrapolate into why he didn't meet those deadlines. Some people could say, oh, he was lollygagging. Other people, you're trying to meet this high level and high expectations established from the previous game. Maybe he was having difficulty in that regard. Maybe, honestly, it's just a creative vision difference. Mm-hmm. Maybe he just wanted to try something more ambient and provide a different experience with this Doom game. But obviously, that intensity was integral in the middle one, and that was just a theme that was carried into Eternal. So reinventing the wheel wasn't something that it looked like they were that interested in doing. So what are your thoughts about this story?
Yeah, so it was interesting because I had been following it. I'm actually glad you brought it up because I don't think we've discussed it. So for some pre-orders of Doom, whether it was digital, physical, they promised the soundtrack. And then I think right before launch, they put a disclaimer that the soundtrack was going to be delayed, later date, something like that. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it because I didn't physically purchase it. But then when I start seeing this issue where it's like, oh, I don't want to work with id, I'm like, we haven't heard too many bad things from id. Like, a lot of the employees that we have heard always talk highly about it, how they all had to come to a consensus that they had to delay Doom. Because remember, Doom was supposed to launch in November?
I believe so, yeah. It was pushed off.
Of last year, and it was pushed to March. And that March date was really pushed forward. They had that whole, Doom and Animal Crossing thing was like always tweeting back at each other. So, that game couldn't be pushed because I think the timing of that game also was partial to its success. The game is fantastic. We've talked about it before. But that does have a little bit to do with it. The timing happened, worked in its favor. So when I see that these two kind of audio issues were kind of going on, and I looked and they're like, yeah, we had to get our own guy Chad to really wrap things up. And I don't know if I was like, man, is there bad blood? Did Chad and this guy work together at any point? I think it's weird. I think this is some of the stuff that shouldn't be publicized, because this is something that you want to. Yeah, I think this is something that you should keep between you and Mick, because who knows, somewhere down the because now this looks bad on him. So when he goes to compose something else, people are going to be like, well, what did you work on? And they find this issue, and they're like, are there higher ups who already have connections to it? It is a pretty big name. Are they going to, they have connections that they're going to call over there? Hey, what happened with Mick? Oh, he didn't make his deadlines. He kept pushing this off. This creative differences. Is he hard to work with? We don't know, obviously. So I don't know if Mick's super hard to work with. What was his issue? Did he just have a different vision, like you said, that he just wanted? He didn't want to just like repeat some stuff where Doom Eternal really amplified everything from Doom 2016. Did he want, there's a lot of little parts on what exactly happened, but for all we know, what we do see is he ended up doing 2 tracks, right? Is what you said?
Yeah, 2 more tracks additional to the 9 that he had provided, because he had a contractual obligation to deliver, I believe, 12 tracks.
Yeah, so again, if the statement is true that he delivered those 2 and then was wished us luck to wrapping it up, that's all just bad publicity. That's stuff you don't want out. You don't want to be publicized, fighting with partners, because it's going to make you harder to want to be rehired. It's also going to make id look a little bit different when people apply to go work at id or work at a contract with id for whatever it is. So the story, was an interesting story because of all this stuff that comes out. But at the same time, it's almost at that point where it's like a little gossipy in a sense, where it's like, man, this shouldn't be out. This is something you guys should deal with privately. No one should be going on Twitter and blasting id, and vice versa. No one from id. And for a while, it was pretty quiet. They weren't coming out saying anything about Mick. It wasn't until they were probably pushed to the edge with, the internet and Mick and his fans and stuff like that. So this is stuff that, again, like I keep saying, shouldn't ever be publicized. This is stuff that should be kept privately for the sake of everyone involved, in respect of their works and stuff like that. That's really my only feeling, is just this is weird for this to have come out the way it did.
Yeah, it's not a good look. And immediately when I saw this kind of like little spat between them, immediately brought me back to that story that we covered not too long ago about the cooking mama. And when you see these kind of like businesses feuding with each other, it's not a good look on either end. And I get it completely. Wanting to clear your name, you got hardworking developers working on this game, trying to do their due diligence, do right by the game, and you have, in their view, someone kind of smearing their name through the mud, and you want to clear things up. I get that completely. And Marty Stratton has never been one known to hold his tongue, for sure. So it didn't surprise me that I saw the statement, and I was really kind of amused by the level of transparency. I mean, hey, they pulled the receipts on him. He threw the ball in their court. They pulled the receipts. Okay, fine. That's a fair exchange. However, I think that there is something to be said by some level of professionalism where sometimes I just didn't think this. I think they weren't necessarily in the wrong for clearing their name. However, I think this situation is kind of petty at this point. I just didn't feel like it was that big of a deal. Like, okay, you have a disgruntled composer. He's saying one thing. Leave it alone. If I was them. However, I do understand on the other side of the things coming back and being like, no, that's not how things played out. Mick Gordon, that is not the direction I would have gone. You did an amazing thing with in 2016, and you could have played some kind of supplementary role with Doom Eternal. And am I going to say that this is so problematic that no one's going to want to work with him in the industry? Not necessarily. I mean, yes, he has a little bit of dirt on his name right now. It's not the best look. However, he was responsible for Doom 2016, and you cannot take that away from him. So problematic to work with one way or another. Listen, Mick Gordon, if you're working on any kind of intense game in the future for whatever reason, and you have the opportunity to work with Mick Gordon, I mean, you're fooling yourself if you think no dev's going to take that opportunity going forward because he had a little bit of a spat with it. You know what I mean? Not to mention, I'm not necessarily going to close the door to the possibility that he never works on Doom again. This seems like a petty issue that they went through, but I don't think that the damage is like irreparable. You never know. Weirder things have happened in the game industry. So, I mean, I would hope to see them kind of reconcile in some kind of approach, and maybe we can get like his perspective again on why maybe those deadlines were not hit and why things didn't work out the way that they were supposed to, and why the creative vision, split so much. I would like to know why he was so intent on delivering these ambient tracks. Maybe again he wanted more of a subtle soundtrack in that era of something closer to like Breath of the Wild, for example, something more subtle, something low key, but at the same time very immersive. Maybe that's what he was going for, and maybe he didn't want this kind of crazy thing. But again, that close to launch, now is not the time to reinvent the wheel. So I'm empathetic to kind of both sides, where he is a creative and he had a vision of something that maybe he wanted to try something different, and they had a vision where not that they wanted more of the same, but that they wanted to kind of build upon what was already established, and that now is not necessarily the time to kind of break that format. So I'm empathetic to both sides, and I hope that they're able to clear this up in some capacity.
Yeah, I would hope that too, because again, it was not like again, I don't know extreme details, but it wasn't like a major fallout. I see them probably being at one point before the whatever next Doom game or whatever the next it is working on, maybe like even in a tweet patching things up. Oh, we've reconciled, come together, whatever. So hopefully we would see that, because it'd be nice to, it'd be nice to see them to work together again and to be adults about this situation and professionals.
Yeah, because that 2016 soundtrack is, whew,
yeah.
I still bump it sometimes. So like, if we can get another version, and again, the Eternal soundtrack I don't think is an absolute piece of crap like some people are acting like it is. Like, I know the mixing's not the greatest and the tracks are not nearly as memorable, but man, some of these people are acting like it's a complete dumpster fire. I'm like, it's not that bad, guys. Like,
yeah, people acting like it's like, for the most part, I didn't even. It wasn't until I went back and listened to it against, like, I listened to, like, during it, I had no issue. When I went and listened to 2016's like soundtrack one time in the background, then I listened to Eternals, that I noticed, I was like, that's when I even looked up. I'm like, was it the same composer? I was like, is this the same person? That's when I found out the other person and the mixing, and then I was like, oh, there's a little bit of a story here. Yeah,
this is mostly an issue for like audiophiles who like really take data integrity very seriously. And again, I'm by no means to minimize that. That's an important, aspect of this. Not to mention when you're dealing with like such clarity and high level mixing as that first soundtrack, it makes sense why this one would be scrutinized on that level too. But the average consumer would probably never notice it, to be honest.
Yeah, whoever just picked up the game just to play it, they're like, "Oh, sounds great, awesome music." I'm like, it is a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So on to our second story, but it's we're gonna break it up into different parts because there's a lot to unpack, and that was May 7th Xbox's presentation. Now this is part one of what they're calling Xbox 2020, which is going to be this continuous stream of Xbox news, games, titles, Series X announcements, Series X showcasing, and stuff like that. So on May 7th, Xbox finally had their next-gen third-party games revealed. They showed off 13 games. 10 of them, which were confirmed as smart delivery titles, which means if you buy them on Xbox One, on your Xbox One, whichever Xbox One console you have, you'll be able to bring it to the Xbox Series X for free, not having to repurchase it, not $15 upgrade. As of right now, it's all been said it was going to be free. So the games they showed off were Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Bright Memory Infinite, thing shut off on me. Call of the Sea, Dirt 5, Madden 21, Scarlet Nexus, Scorn, Second Extinction, The Ascent, The Medium, Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon. That title still throws me off. Chorus.
Yeah. It's a weird one, yeah.
And Chorus. So, before we get into the rest of the story, what did you think of some of these games? Were any of them like super stand out to you?
Yeah, well, okay, so there's kind of a lot to unpack there. Yeah. I would like to note that I thought it was hilarious so they were emphasizing this whole smart delivery system, which I think is awesome, very customer friendly, very Xbox. I'm very happy about that. But there was one specification where they're like, this is a smart delivery with a caveat, which is, of course, Madden 21. of course, with any dev, leave it to EA to find a way where it's like, well, I mean, you could smart deliver as long as you do it within this very specific window. And it's like, they will nickel and dime you at any opportunity. Like, geez, EA, what is wrong with you guys? So I was watching that and I was like, I couldn't help but laugh. But I'm like, of course it's them. AC Valhalla, of course we saw that already. So, happy to see that they obviously have some kind of marketing deal with Xbox on that. But of course, that's going to be a multi-plat title. Bright Memory Infinite, I know a lot of people really excited about that. That game looks phenomenal. I wanted to give them a shout out because that's developed by one person in China. So like that's super awesome. I would like to specify a lot of people have been like, we're saying, okay, finally some next gen gameplay that we saw out of there. I would like to specify we did see this game about a month or two ago on I noticed on Twitter on Steam. Of this game being showed off for the first time. It was in way cruder of a state than this vertical slice that they showed on the trailer was. But this is not necessarily the first time we've seen this game. So that's important to note.
Bright Memory Infinite?
Yeah, Bright Memory Infinite we have seen before.
So because that is an update, because Bright Memory exists.
Yes, seems like they just maybe Microsoft threw some money at them, it seems like. Because it does look like fundamentally way more better. Like it looks pretty awesome what they were able to do with that. But this is by no means the first time we've seen that. So that's important to note. Not to take anything away from it, but this is not like the first next-gen gameplay we've seen because that game exists right now.
Yeah, on PC.
Yeah, Call of the Sea didn't really do too much for me. Chorus, all right. Dirt 5, I know, has a lot of its fan bases. For a second, I could not tell if it was Dirt or Forza. I was like, I don't know which one this is.
I had that same issue. I thought it was... So, not to cut you off, but when I was watching this, I'm like, man, it's Motorsport's turn. Because, Horizon and Motorsport...
they go back and forth.
They go back and forth. I'm like, this looks so arcadey compared to the other. Motorsports are always like on these tracks, super clean, professional... And then I realized, I was like, oh, when it came out, I was like, oh, Dirt 5. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and those are good games in their own right, for sure.
Yeah, no, it was just weird.
Yeah, Scarlet Nexus, anime kind of fighting game. Looks interesting. Not something I'm necessarily running to play on like an Xbox. But if that has a multi-plat, I could see myself maybe diving into that on like Switch or something like that if it's on there. Mm-hmm. Second Extinction, we both had the exact same thought, which is, oh, Turok's coming back. I swear I thought that was Turok. I could not believe it wasn't. When I saw I was like, oh my god.
I was almost 100% sure. I was like, holy cow, that's the big one. Turok.
It had the color palette too. It looked exactly like a modern Turok would look. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the Ascent looks kind of interesting. It actually kind of reminds me of kind of like a cyberpunk Dead Nation. You remember Dead Nation?
Yes, I did. So that's what I kind of got from it too. Dead Nation, Alien Nation, I think that was the other one they did.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I got vibes from it.
So that one looks fun to me. I'd love to play that. Again, a game that I would probably prefer to play on like a Vita or a Switch. Personally, I like those top-down games. I like them close to my face. But that's how I like to play it. The Medium looks kind of interesting. I need to see gameplay to know whether that's something I'm interested in. Scorn looks freaking horrifying. Mm-hmm. I also feel like we've seen that game before. I feel like we've seen Scorn when it released a trailer on Steam, if I'm not mistaken.
So I believe Xbox like 3 years ago showed a Scorn trailer.
Oh, was it Xbox?
I think they themselves showed it at a conference somewhere. I don't remember if it was E3 or Gamescom. I don't remember what it was, but I did look it up, and they did have their name attached to a trailer like 3 years ago. And it was...
Because I remember like this very like body horror first-person game being showed off and thinking the same thing. So I was like, wait, is this another game that is just in that same style? But no, I'm pretty sure we've seen Scorn before.
Yeah, this is not the first time we've seen it.
So that's cool that's going to be coming to the system. I'm excited about that. I would have to see the gameplay first to know like if it's some kind of like visceral fast shooter. If it's Doom-like, I'm in. If it's something way more like ethereal and atmospheric and walking simmy, not for me. I don't want to look at that stuff too long without killing it because it's very scary to me. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, what a title. I don't know anything about this series. I hate that title, but it's very Japanesey, and who am I to talk? Because again, I played Kingdom Hearts games, and they have the most ridiculous titles ever. So,
true.
And then Yakuza Like a Dragon. Oh, I am there day one. I wonder if that's gonna be a Game Pass title though, because again, they're dropping Yakuza 0's on there right now. Kiwami's on there. Kiwami 2 is gonna be coming soon. There's a collection that's there now, not on the Game Pass though. So I wonder if Yakuza Like a Dragon is gonna be a day one Game Pass game. That would be awesome if it was.
Yeah, out of all these titles, I see that one probably being the one that does the Game Pass deal, which would be kind of great, especially it being, because people keep calling it Yakuza 7. They don't refer to it as that because it is sort of it's not the same character as the other 6 Yakuza games.
It's very spin-off, to be honest.
It's very spin-off, very moving forward, too. Again, I don't know if there's some sort of... I'm sure the characters, cross over at some point.
Yeah, I saw some characters from the old series there.
Yeah, but it's going to be a very good entry point for people. They're going to be just like... Not putting a big O number 7 is going to help this title, for sure.
Yeah, because if you put the 7 there, you inherit all the baggage of 1 through 6, and the people who haven't played that. Yeah, I mean, who wants to jump into the 7th iteration of a game? Exactly. And if it's not well established, like a Final Fantasy, where everything's disconnected, so you don't have to worry about it, there is a branching narrative that goes through the Yakuza games that I don't necessarily think they want to inherit all of that. So yeah, this is in many ways kind of like a soft reboot, not narratively, but in the way that they're reinventing the gameplay. They're trying something new. They have a new protagonist for the first time in a very long time. It's not a spin-off in the way that it's like, completely a whole different side story. It looks like that they do have some, weight and narrative connecting it to the previous games. It's not Judgment in the way that it's not connected at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like occupying this middle zone, and I'm super excited to jump in there because, again, I've played Yakuza 0, I've dabbled in Kiwami a little bit, and I'm working my way through the games, but I have no qualms about jumping into this one day one because I know it's kind of its own thing, and I don't feel like I'm going to be spoiling myself in Kiryu's story by playing this story here. So
yeah, I have the same aspect where I have on the docket ready to start going through the Yakuza games, because between all the consoles and people, between Game Pass, PSN Plus, Xbox Gold, and Epic Game Store and Steam, I have them all roughly, except the new remasters they did on PS4. So I'm gonna start
3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, 3, 4, and 5, which were the PS3 titles. So I'm gonna play those soon. I probably will go back and play them after I play Like a Dragon, because Like a Dragon just looks also kind of... Those games are always just so goofy and stuff like that. So Like a Dragon would probably be the one to really get me hooked onto it, then go backwards.
Yep.
But yeah, like we were saying, most of the titles I'm trying to look through them really quick. Yep, Bright Memory Infinite was great. Dirt 5, Scorn. Chorus, which watching the trailer, I didn't know it was saying Chorus. Is that cool space shooter looked really interesting to me.
Yeah, that looked interesting, yeah.
Because, I don't know, I'm just really on a sci-fi binge right now, like with shows and stuff. I'm rewatching Star Wars and looking at all these other, like spacey stuff. So her, like, with the weird connection with the ship looks cool. I want to see more of that to see what's going on with that. Call of the Sea looks, Bloodlines is fine. Scarlet Nexus, which I thought was going to be it almost like DLC to Bandai Namco's game last year, which was what's that the vampire game? Code Vein.
Oh yeah, Code Vein. Yeah.
Gave me super Code Vein vibes, except with weird plants and stuff. Those games always are kind of hit or miss because they can either get
look like a Platinum game, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And Platinum spread so thin, I was like, oh man, another one. But again, I'd have to see gameplay. I saw some of it, but again, it looked a little bit more action paced, more DMC, where Code Vein is a lot more Dark Souls.
Yep.
Assassin's Creed we saw, and we'll get into a little bit that later. The Second Extinction looks cool. Left 4 Dead Dinosaurs, it's gonna be awesome. The Medium, which is I think what's that team name? Bluebird or something like that. Something weird. It looks a little like Alan Wakey almost in a sense. It's like a little Alan Wake with a little Silent Hill stuff like that. And,
little Control in there.
Yeah, a little Control gave me a lot of that vibe too. For a second, I almost thought it was Remedy. I was like, they cranked out another game this quick.
Yeah, I mean, I did get that vibe, and I'm like, you guys cannot make a game that looks like your previous games this close.
Yeah, it looked. I'm like, oh man. So that looked great, and then Madden 21 was there. So some solid titles. I guess this will kind of fold in a little bit into kind of the controversy that there was, and not like a crazy controversy, but Xbox was very hyping this up as you were gonna start seeing like Xbox One and / Series X. You were going to see Xbox titles, in a sense. And I know they did emphasize the third party. I didn't think that meant no first party. But their big thing is that they kept talking about gameplay.
Yeah.
And for those who saw it and for those who didn't see it, there wasn't very much gameplay. And the main one was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because we just had gotten, the Valhalla announcement. Then Ubisoft was talking about how they were going to be part of this Xbox digital event, Xbox amping up that we were going to see Valhalla gameplay. And so there was some controversy about the lack of actual gameplay shown. The folks both at Xbox and Ubisoft have acknowledged the criticism. Xbox marketing, general manager Aaron Greenberg says on Twitter that clearly we set some wrong expectations, and that's on us. We all appreciate all the feedback and can assure you we will take it all in and learn as a team. Then the Assassin's Creed Valhalla creative director, don't know how to pronounce his name, Ashraf Ismail, yeah. Sorry for butchering that name. Similarly says, you rightfully expected to see more today. We have a long marketing campaign ahead of us. You will see in-depth gameplay and get a lot more info about the game. Thank you for your excitement and passion. Be patient with us and be kind. It will be worth it.
Please be excited.
Yeah, please be excited.
You remember that?
Yeah, please be excited. So I did have issue with this, where initially I walked away from this conference because I watched it live, and I remember you sent me the link too right before it, and my own thing was like, I want to see gameplay. I want to see what these games are going to be pushing out of current gen and next gen, and I want to see ambition. I want to see little things stand out to me. So when you're watching a game, you see like the particle, the ray tracing, the quick smooth like transitions from cutscene to gameplay, like that, little things like that. I didn't want to see tons of it, but I did want to see a little bit from everyone. A little bit. Everyone showed me what they've got, and that's what I kind of expected. The only one I expected at least a little like true gameplay was from Assassin's Creed, because of the way they kind of led up to it. So walking away from the conference, I was like, man, that was all pre-rendered stuff. That was all pre-rendered in engine. I was a little disappointed, but I was like, oh, we saw some cool stuff. And obviously we're going to see Assassin's Creed all the way until release. Then I went on Twitter, and we all know the wonderful world that Twitter can be. And people were just like attacking mainly Xbox. They were leaving a lot of developers out of it. And I was like, so yeah, I get why you people were disappointed. I don't think it was to the extent that they needed to be like super attacked and people posting links to PlayStation, because timing wise, PlayStation did put that Ghost of Tsushima post where it's him riding the horse through like these crazy different environments that look super good and super clean, and like the graphics look really good. And I know that's
and that's technically a current gen experience.
So people were like, more gameplay shown that people were getting like toxic, petty. A little toxic and petty. And Ghost of Tsushima looks great. It did, in a sense, almost look better than some of the stuff we saw. Bloodlines, I know Vampire Masquerade is a smaller title. I had a lot of issues with the way that game looks. But I think that's just also their art style, because I looked at the first one, and that's kind of just what it looks like.
And way different teams too working on that.
Yeah, and it's
Sucker Punch is kind of a different thing than.
That's what I was saying. There's a big difference here. This Masquerade thing's way more of a passion project. So I see the issue. I think people need to relax a little bit. This is their first, big showcase since the world changed. The world has changed. Everyone's shooting from home, and so getting some of this messaging out in a set time, in a respectable time, is a little bit difficult. You got to give them a little bit of a break. They're doing the best they can. They have a lot going on. They're trying to launch the new system. They're trying to get people hyped up for these games. I know this was all third party, and we went in knowing it was third party. It was weird for them almost acting like they were exclusives. I don't know if anyone kind of else got that vibe. Some of these games, the way they were kind of marketing and putting that Xbox symbol everywhere, most of these games aren't exclusive.
They're just world premieres.
Scarlet Nexus is not only a next-gen game that's going to be on PS4, because the Amazon, their official website and the Amazon listing has it for PS4, PS5, and then Xbox. It says Xbox One / Series X, which may or may not deconfirm some of the smart delivery for PS5, even though other titles have said otherwise. Did you have any real issue with the way this conference was lined up? Part of this controversy of anything like that?
Yeah, my problem is, I mean, I thought the presentation in and of itself was fine, not anything that blew my mind or anything like that. The only issue I ever took was, again, it's Microsoft's responsibility to temper expectations and to let people know very explicitly what they're getting with this. And it's not something to like crap all over your conference before you release it, but to let people know what they're going. And Xbox made a conscious effort to reinforce the idea of first time seeing next gen gameplay. That's almost verbatim what they were pushing. And then when it comes out and you're seeing nothing but pre-rendered cutscenes, that's problematic. And no one told Xbox to double down on that stance.
Yeah.
So obviously when there's pushback, that was kind of like demise of their own creation. They are the ones who not instead of tempering expectations, actually increased them. And then when they kind of fell short from that, there was some blowback. Now, again, I'm not so much concerned about the developers themselves not having too much to show. I mean, they got what they got. I don't think that's so much of an issue. It's more so the Xbox marketing team that I think did a massive misstep, basically doubling down on something that they knew damn well that they had nothing to show for. So that, I think, is an issue. The game that confused me the most was Assassin's Creed, considering the fact that we had just seen that trailer. So I don't really know why they were here, other than to say, like, yeah, we're working with Xbox. We're one of their partners, and that's cool. And that's cool for a little stinger at the end, I guess, if they want to show, like, Ubisoft's name against all the rest as Microsoft partners going into the Series X. But to have, like, a concentrated presentation for AC Valhalla and show pretty much nothing else was confusing to me. I didn't really understand because, again, we just had that reveal. So I felt like, okay, if Assassin's Creed is here, we're getting more here. We're getting either a super breakdown on the characters, super breakdown on the world, showing off the map, gameplay, something. And they didn't really show any of that. So that was very confusing to me. And not to mention, unlike some of the other titles there, they had a straight up like interview section at the latter half of it, breaking it down with the developer. So if you're going to have concentrated time with a dev, it's kind of interesting to me as a choice to not really have that much to add to the conversation additional to what Ubisoft showed off themselves. So it was just kind of like a misstep in my view. Again, when you're the only one showing things, which is the position Xbox is in right now, Sony's not really entered their full, PS5 blowout stage yet. So it's kind of Xbox dominating the conversation by themselves. And they're competing against Sony's first-party games in terms of, mind share of the collective consciousness. But in terms of next-gen talk, it's pretty much only Xbox out right now. And so they're going to have those extra eyes on that and the extra layer of scrutiny. And you got to be on your P's and Q's, man. If you're going to say next-gen gameplay, have next-gen gameplay. If you're going to say the Xbox One blowout, it better be that blowout. And in June, when they show their first-party games, you bet your bottom that they better have Halo in mass there. Because, again, these are the expectations they set for themselves, and they have to know that extra level of scrutiny that's going to be present for them. So, I am not super negative on Xbox right now. I'm excited for the Series X. I'm excited to play most of these games, if not all of them. But they need to be careful what they say. And this is not just something just for Microsoft. This is something for Sony, too. You got to be mindful of your words because people will go through them with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, and fanboys, of course, are out in droves. And you and I are pretty, platform agnostic. I have both. I'm looking at both my systems hooked up right there. So I will be giving, when Sony starts to show off, if Sony were to do something just like this, I will be saying the exact same words. I'm not going to fanboy be like, wow, PlayStation's great. They do handle presentation a little bit better sometimes, because we all know what happened with Mark Cerny a while ago.
Oh, God.
So, because people were saying, oh, if this was Sony, people would be raving about it. No, because it's not who's showing it. It's what, the expectations you set and what you're delivering and the process of delivering it. And,
Did we forget they just got on Sony's butt during that last blowout that they did of the PS5 where they went into cores and text? This is not a unique to Microsoft problem.
No, it's just Sony botched their presentation there. Xbox didn't botch it. I think it was just a little confused on the way they needed to deliver this message. I think also it was even bad of... So this is my issue, is they mentioned 343 and Halo, and they're like, oh, in June, we're going to see our first party stuff. Don't bring up your first party when you're really supposed to be amplifying your third party relationships and your third party games, because now when it comes to do your first party showcase and things are a little bit warmer, lack receive, because I we don't know what Halo Infinite's going to look like and all these other games and what people have been working on. Don't start hyping stuff 2 months ahead of time, a month ahead of time, when you're supposed to have us excited for what you're showing now. I think it was also a bad move. That's something they can learn from PlayStation. PlayStation's been pretty quiet about PS5, but they're really amping The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, stuff that they have now. So I think you have to keep your messages clear. If this is going to be a third-party thing, don't start name-dropping 343 and Halo, because it also makes it look like that's all you have. I think that's just a personal issue I had with them, because I was like, if you're going to bring it up, show us. If you're going to mix it up, third-party, first-party, just big blowout. That was my only issue.
Yeah, it was kind of salt in the wound at that point, because again, it's like, oh, we know this presentation was a little lackluster, but hey, the one that you really want to watch, that's a month off, and it's like, oh well, thanks for that, Microsoft.
Yeah,
thanks for that.
It's just bad timing. And so just to end this small little section of the story, with E3 2020 officially canceled and they're doing their stuff, Xbox is going to be shifting some of its plans to create digital events to showcase the Xbox Series X, its game, and more in the lead up to the release this holiday season. They're still firm that this holiday season is going to be the next gen. This includes a new Nintendo Direct style video series called Xbox 2020, which this was the beginning with. So with all these game shows canceled, Tokyo Game Show 2020 just got canceled. Not much to say about that. That's it is. At this point, it's normal.
Like everything else.
Like every other event. I don't know why these conventions still think they can happen. So it was obvious that TGS was going to be canceled. I'm worried a little. I'm not worried too much about the future of it because of the presentation style. The style is fine. It's more the content that people need to be worrying, because people are like, oh man, we're going to get this for months now until the Xbox releases and it's going to flop. I don't think so. I think people are kind of underselling Xbox's power that they have right now. Not the power of the system, more the power of bundle, because you can essentially get an Xbox Series X, and if you already have Game Pass, you're going to have a library, just huge library of game, plus backwards compatible on your Series X day one. So I think if they just tighten up their presentation a little bit, control what you're messaging, because there was so much confusion about, even though this was a third-party thing, people were like, oh, these games aren't exclusive. People were posting, oh, Bright Memory is available now on Steam for $10. So I'm like, well, it's an update version. And yeah, if you buy the Steam one for $10, you're going to get, I believe, the whatever the update is for free on Steam. But it's a big deal when these games come to console. Not everyone has a PC. Not everyone has the option to have that. They have the system they have, and they want more games on that system. So that's a good look. So I think having more of these Xbox streams are going to work. I think having more faces is going to work. Where Nintendo was really big on having people having icons. People know Sakurai, people knew Reggie, and all these, and Miyamoto, and all these people. I think Xbox showing a little bit of the team is good. I did like that. I think control what they're saying, because sometimes they're on screen. I know they're videotaping from home, and it's not as rehearsed as they want. It gets a little weird. It looks like we kind of just broke in at last second. They don't know what to talk about really.
Zoom call.
Yeah, all the Zoom calls and stuff like there's some people who are just like, yeah, this game's gonna be good. I'm like, well, go a little bit into it. Control some of that stuff. Spread it out a little bit. Don't have just sections of video call to video call, and then end it. So I think the next one hopefully will be good. I think they're gonna take this actual feedback. People were like, hey, what was this event, and tweak it. And I think the Xbox presentations will continue, will be fine. And this is all mixed among that summer of games that we're having, or summer game fest with Jeff Keighley, and which is like an overall branching thing. That's why you do have to stand out to an extent, and I think Xbox is gonna learn their lesson. They're usually quick to learn lessons, and bounce back a little bit stronger.
Yeah, if there's anything Xbox can do, is their ability to pivot, which is not very easy mid cycle, and they have the small advantage right now of setting up good infrastructure for them to knock it out of the park. But they are fighting an uphill battle with the fact that they got outsold so bad last gen, so they got to be on their P's and Q's, have everything right, and be ready because the PS5 is coming and it's coming strong, and they cannot afford to mess up momentum like they did last gen.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess we can get into the loose topic at this point.
Yeah.
We have two of them, so let's just get started on the first one, which is our favorite gaming soundtracks. Now, this is obviously going to be a very personalized topic. There's no way to say the best gaming soundtracks of all time because, of course, music is so subjective. Everybody has their own experience. Nostalgia plays a big role in this. So, Steve, let's just get started with you. What are some of your favorite gaming soundtracks of all time?
All right, so I try to spread it out, right? Because I didn't want to just think of one like specific soundtrack and like what music do I listen to, and luckily I've been kind of playing a lot of my older stuff lately. So one soundtrack I want to put out, just really out there, and I know I'm working on a separate video in general about it, is Super Mario World. That whole soundtrack, every stage is so iconic. I don't know, like, anytime I do play that game around people, most people will hum a section of it because they'll know it. They'll know the beginning opening. They'll know when I'm in a cave. They know all those, all that soundtrack in general is so good. And you've heard remixes of it, people going on YouTube and doing all these crazy things to it. And I have to stand that, even though that's, like, pretty much my favorite game of all time, that soundtrack is also so iconic. And it's one of my favorites, especially, it's one of my favorite parts of Mario Maker 2 is going to the Super Mario World and, changing like night, day, and stuff like that. And I remember showing you one of the soundtracks, one of the tracks remixed when it was like nighttime and stuff like that. And they add different instruments and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That was Mario Maker, yeah.
Yeah, the Mario Maker. And small things in that game, like when you have Yoshi and the drums start, hitting on, and I can hear it in my head right now. I'm bobbing my head to it because it's so good, because it's simple things like that when you have like just a soundtrack that's so iconic after so many years. And when people think of soundtracks, they think vocal soundtracks. They think, I don't know, Sonic Adventure series that has those things.
Spoiler.
Oh, I'll get to mine. I'll leave Sonic Adventure 1 for you, don't worry. People think that. I like to think of some other stuff like this. That soundtrack is so iconic, and it's just one of my favorites. So going on to another favorite of mine is Sonic Adventure 2. I don't even know where to begin with Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack. I just love everything about it. I know most of those, and you know this for a fact, that I know most of those songs word for word. I have
the Knuckles rap.
The Knuckles rap. I have a CD somewhere with most of these tracks on there, and I have a playlist on Spotify that has some of them. And the Sonic series in general, from pretty much I think starting with Adventure, all had that really kind of rock. Crush 40 and like Sum 41 did a couple, not Sum 41, Crush 40, and all these other guys did different remixes and stuff like that. But it's weird to think that Sonic Adventure 2 has this like such a variety of it. Like you have the popper songs for like Amy and all the the lighter team, and then you have Sonic just has kind of this more high speed rock, and then you have Shadow that has almost like a fake death metal tracks and stuff like that. You got Eggman and Sonic, Eggman and Tails have like that weird rap stuff, and then Knuckles really has that kind of hardcore rap. That's just a fantastic soundtrack to me. I hum to it all the time, constantly especially when I'm cooking. I don't cook too much, but when I cook, that's some reason the stuff like that's in my head. City Escape I listen to pretty much once a week out of one, because someone somewhere will put that and I'll have to listen to it. And it's just it's a test of time that though that game is what it is, we're here to talk about soundtracks. That soundtrack's fantastic. Like that's such a great mixtape. It almost does sound like a movie like soundtrack where the things are just so wildly all over the place. So it's weird. So I love that. So my last one I had to really talk about, and luckily I found it the other day. I launched up to see if I still liked it. Was Jet Set Radio Future.
Yes.
Man, that music it fits the style so much, and hopefully I can set up so I can do a gameplay about that, because that game is just fantastic. I don't even know how to call it, that kind of skatey hip vibe that has to it with some rap. There are some like more hip hop style songs in there, but the super techno-y, almost grungy, like spray painty. I don't even know how to say it. Think of more like a hardcore Splatoon style soundtrack, almost in a sense.
Really urban though.
Yes, but super urban and super techno and super just hip. You know, I use hip in quotations because I don't even know what that means. It's just so smooth, and I don't think I've ever seen a soundtrack match a game so much than Jet Set Radio Future. Even like other rhythm-based games, things always felt awkward. But there's something about the Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack. I played more of this one than I did the first one, so I can't speak too much about the Jet Set Radio. But Jet Set Radio Future I don't think I've ever seen something mesh so well, where it sounds like what you would think it sounds like from a picture and from a gameplay clip. This music sounds automatically what it feels like. It's weird that you hear what you see and you see what you hear, in a sense. So those are some of my favorite gaming ones. What did you end up having?
Yeah, so I got quite a few here. A lot of them are kind of like of this current gen that I wanted to just give a shout out. And then I have my personal list. Okay. So I just wanted to start with Sonic Adventure, which obviously I chose the first one because I know how much you love the second one. You know how much I love the first one. And they're different games in their own regard, but they're very similar in other ones. So a lot of the good things about the Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack could be pretty much said for the first one. I just love the versatility of it. The soundtrack's pretty much all over the place, to be honest. Like you go to Mystic Ruins and you get some kind of ambient atmospheric drum music. You go to the city and that has some kind of like pop new wave style music. You got the kind of like, you know, underground scary music of like the Knuckles missions and stuff like that. So the soundtrack's really all over the place, and in many ways when you go back to it's kind of cringe at some points too, but at the same time like it's so endearing and so iconic, and just something that to this day like I listen to these songs and it immediately brings me back to that time. So I just wanted to give that a shout out. The second one is something that literally no one talks about, but I have to give some love to. And it's Professor Layton, and specifically Professor Layton in the Curious Village. That kind of like French-styled pop music like is so awesome. And the whole thing is very instrumental-based. And for a DS game, like this, I need to give this game its credit. This game's awesome. And basically, it popped up in my head yesterday, and I actually went on YouTube immediately and fired up the OST to make sure that I'm like, am I tripping, or is the soundtrack really that good as it was when I was younger playing this game? And no, that game's awesome. Like, replaying these songs, I'm like, the amount of like care that went into the soundtrack of this game, to basically no one really talking about it anymore, is a real shame, because I think they did something pretty awesome there. So I'd highly suggest, if you haven't heard this soundtrack before, just go to the Professor Layton in the Curious Village main theme and just listen to that. Just the main theme. Don't even worry about the rest of the soundtrack. And it'll blow your mind. It's fantastic. The second one is Crazy Taxi. Now, that has the most iconic intro song of almost any game from that generation, in my opinion. But the whole soundtrack, like another game that I'll get into, which is like it's very Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3-ish in the way that it's very formative of that time and formative of my youth. And this played a major role in me really getting into pop punk, getting into alt rock, getting into that kind of skater scene and that kind of California rock scene and ska and stuff like that. My music taste was really shaped by these games that I played as a youth, between, again, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Crazy Taxi, and then some other ones that I'll give a shout out to, the Rock Bands, the Guitar Heroes, games like that. Yeah. That just are literally the soundtrack is the game. So that's almost cheating in that regard. But again, these are formative games in my youth. And then I have a couple games that we both really love from this generation that I just wanted to at least mention in this conversation. First one, Tetris Effect. I mean, we all know how good that soundtrack is. I don't even need to get deep into it. There's fewer games of the modern generation that I think one thing had that care to cater it and to work it into the game experience. It's versatile. It's all over the place. It's very worldly and global. It has sounds from all over the place. It takes you to Africa and to Asia and to Europe. It's just all over the place. It has EDM music. It has drum and bass type R&B, or not R&B, but hip hop styled videos. So it's a really iconic soundtrack that I just had to mention. Persona 5. I mean, fewer games are as smooth in terms of a soundtrack as Persona 5. Yeah. It has instrumental, jazz-oriented types, stylings. You really like this soundtrack too, right?
Yeah, so the Persona soundtrack, I can't believe I even spaced on that. I really fell in love with 4, and 5 soundtrack is just as good.
Absolutely.
Because I even as a gift you gave me the soundtrack to Persona 4 once, and I still have it in my car.
I forgot that.
I still have it in my car. Every once in a while, I'll put it in it, and I just hear that music, and
it's just awesome.
I mean, the music's so good. Even they created the dancing games based off that music, and my favorite part of those things is shutting everything off and just kind of letting because you can pretty much just let it play, and just having that soundtrack and all the remixes, and that soundtrack I love it so much. It's I think one of them is my ringtone right now. My phone's always on vibrate, but because I'm not an imbecile. But not that you're an imbecile if you have your music on, if you have your phone not on vibrate. But it's just a fantastic.
It's just not 2008 anymore. So
yeah.
And I wanted to give a quick shout out. We mentioned the game earlier, Doom 2016. I mean, if you're a metal fan, there's only a couple games I think you could really latch onto having like a really good soundtrack in that regard. Doom, and then I would say probably like DMC are probably like the main examples of like games that really tap into metal in a really effective way. So I just wanted to give Doom a soundtrack. I'm a big metalcore fan, and so not too many games incorporate that into their soundtrack. So whenever someone does, got to give them a shout out. And then the last one is a game that got talked about its soundtrack a lot when it came out, but since then, not as many people have brought it up, which is Nier Automata. Mm-hmm. Man, that soundtrack, and my girlfriend's actually replaying it right now, so that's why I was reminded of it. Man, like that soundtrack's awesome. Like, again, just it's very subtle in the way you're not getting these crazy EDM style loud dubstep sounds, so it's a way more subtle kind of vibe to it, but some of like the vocal stylings and the instrumentation on it are really, really impressive, and you could tell a great deal of care went into them. So just wanted to give those a quick shout out. I know I had a lot, but there's just so many soundtracks that like I go back to on a regular basis that I just have to mention because I'll like hate myself forever if I don't.
No, yeah, for sure, and that kind of refreshes my memory, because one thing I did want to mention, I can't believe I almost forgot, is, so I kind of, it's hard to put it in a bracket, but I kind of wanted to mention Square Enix games in general. Yep. Final Fantasies, Kingdom Hearts, all these kind of titles that under their branch, even if you think of a little bit what they did with the Tomb Raider games and stuff like that, they really know how to match, not only, I know Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts has a little bit more iconic stuff, and some of that stuff's licensed to different people and things like, especially Kingdom Hearts always uses teams up with her name's spacing on me. Simple and Clean.
Oh, the composer for her? Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, but they do all these. The music on Kingdom Hearts and most Final Fantasies are so iconic, and they just fit the and that's something we were able to experience again in Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I don't know if
Yoko Shimomura.
Yeah,
just wanted to mention.
Yeah. The composers and all these people really are able to capture. At no point did I feel like, this music doesn't fit, because especially in Final Fantasy VII Remake, they did use the original tracks as a base, and they kind of updated it, remixed it, did different things to it, and it just fits so well when like you're underground, when you're in the city, when you're this and this and this is going on. There's so many iconic tracks in that. There's so many iconic tracks in Kingdom Hearts where people know the opening scene. Each one had their anthem, their main title song. Even though 3's was a little weird with Skrillex. Was it Skrillex? Yeah, Skrillex.
Yeah, the remix of that Utada Hikaru song.
Yeah, he did that weird one.
It's interesting.
But yeah,
it's an interesting take on it. Yeah.
But Square Enix, but like I was saying, Square Enix needs a shot, because that's something they do put a lot of effort, money, and research into, because those tracks are fantastic. Everyone knows that song that comes up anytime Sephiroth's on screen, the One Wing Angel, whichever remix of it, that comes up when that violin really hits at the beginning. It's just so intimidating, like it's fearful. That puts fear in you, especially when you realize that pretty much Sephiroth's always horrible to fight, in the sense that he's very difficult, not that he sucks. So that's another one I wanted to give them a shout out, because they deserve it. They really deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, think how many publishers can you think were able to pull off what they pulled with just menu music of like Kingdom Hearts? That one little piano song, and I forget the name of it. The name escapes me. But there's that one track that's always in the intro of Kingdom Hearts games that it's like, talk about iconic.
Dearly Beloved?
Yes,
I think is the English name for it.
I mean, just an iconic track, and then obviously Simple and Clean and Sanctuary, or Hikari and Passion, depending on what language you're talking about, are its own, iconic levels. Shout out to Hikaru, who, very formative in the Square scene. So shout out them. So I guess we can move on to the second loose topic to kind of wrap up the show.
Yep.
which is the horror games that scare us the most. Now, which ones are the ones for you?
All right, so ones that scare me the most, and I don't know if it's because of childhood issue, and that is the Fatal Frame series.
Yes, I mentioned the same thing. Yeah.
So they're on the PS3 I got. I recently let someone borrow it, and they put these games on there for me. I don't know why, because I just look at them, and I probably will never play them. Maybe one day I'll stream them, for people, just so it'd be fun. Those games came. Well, I don't know when they came out specifically, but I
think the first one was 2001.
Yeah, so I was made aware of these games later on when I started watching a lot of horror movies. When I started watching like The Grudge and Ring and all these other horror movies, and then my brother was super into going to FYE, which RP for most of the FYEs, getting $5 horror movies and bringing them. And we were watching them in Japanese and stuff like that, and Japanese horror is a whole different level of horror. So when you get Fatal Frame in, it's super based in that, and obviously it's a Japanese game, and with translations and all these kind of things, those games absolutely terrify me. And it's to the extent where, I've not played those games since I was little. I'm an old man now, and I still will not play those games alone. There's no way you couldn't pay me enough to go turn my PlayStation 3 on and go play Fatal Frame 1 by myself here. I just don't think I could do it. And that series is just something that's and it's fun because I'm so interested in that series. I read the stories constantly because it's so much lore. The small things that are based on true stories, which is a tongue-in-cheek kind of lie. But, the things that are there. And that setup, obviously super long, dark, black hair thing is such a big thing in Japanese culture as a showmanship of horror and the afterlife. It just terrifies me to the core. And I want to play those games. But I'm honest to say I'm too afraid to play those PS2 games. Because they just terrify me. So continuing on, so the only other one that really used to get me is Clock Tower. I don't know if you've played the series. It's a little bit older. It's a PS1. I want to say all three are on PlayStation 1. I think one goes back to like NES, and then there's a Clock Tower game. It's a game that really focuses on, and I don't know if it's just the way I played or was showed to play it, on completing puzzles and stuff like that in a certain aspect before this guy hunts you down in a clock tower, obviously. So having the stress of like timing and all that kind of stuff pressured on you, being so exclusive, not being able to really fight back and stuff like that, just got me to the point where I just was like too stressed out, and that amplifies all these emotions in your body, and I'm just starting to freak out. Like, if I don't do this mission in time, stuff like this. Soundtrack super creepy, and it's, like, obtuse in a sense. So that one really ended up kind of... I did play it for a little bit. I played it a couple years ago, actually. And it's not as scary as it is, but it starts to get to that point where when time starts running out and you don't know how fast you should be doing certain things, and it just gets to be a little too much. And it's always been an issue. The only other horror game that I was able to really kind of think of and mention, and it's kind of dumb, but it's a little bit newer. So we all remember when the Slender Man thing was kind of popping off.
Yep.
With the millions of games. So the original Slender Man game that came out, nobody knew what it was, and I went and played it, is a janky mess. Going to collect pages in the woods or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I do remember one specific night. The reason I want to mention, because I always liked the Slender Man lore. I know it kind of went into a controversy when people started taking it too serious. But that initial simple game of he's not a scary figure. He's faceless man in a suit, pretty much, super tall. And the fact that he kind of just shows up and doesn't do much to you, but it's the presence of him not knowing when he's going to appear.
It's
really
unsettling.
Yeah, it's super unsettling, and it just gets me to the point where him coming out and like grabbing you or whatever wasn't what was really scaring me. It was the anticipation where I'm like, I wonder what time he's gonna show up to get me, and obviously they made a bunch of other ones. There's one I think on PS4, and I played those, and those got a little crazy and a little nuts for no reason, where you're like fighting him back and punching him and stuff. But yeah, that unsettling feeling is something in a horror, in horror genre in general, that can put me to the point where I almost feel sick. And this only ever happened to me in a different. I actually think I went to go see it with you, where there's a movie called As Above, So Below.
Yeah, we both got sick.
Where the movie wasn't that scary, but there was something about the unsettling nature, the way it was shot and directed, where we were just like, we went to go see this in the middle of the day, and I think we all went home afterwards because we just felt bad. We just felt weird.
We had like anxiety attacks. Yeah, we did not feel good.
And so that's why, even though Slender Man, the original game, I don't know who created it. Though it was such more of a clickbait kind of thing, and people were freaking out about it. That's the only other time I really experienced that, which I guess it probably could be an anxiety attack to a sense, where I'm like starting to breathe heavy, my heart's pounding for no reason. I'm not scared, but it's just so unsettling, and the atmosphere, and you kind of put yourself in that mindset that it just takes control for a little bit. I was having nightmares of like Slender Man for a little bit for no reason. I don't really have dreams in general, which I know is terrible, but. It was such a weird game, and so now I refuse to play those games, mainly because I'm physically traumatized a little bit from that stuff. Yeah. So I know you're not huge into horror, so I'm excited to hear some of your little stories.
Yeah, I was educated very quickly that horror and survival horror was not that so much I didn't like it, but it's just something I couldn't handle. It's just a gameplay style that, like, fear and the ability to perform actions in a game is not something I can do simultaneously. That's why, like, I love horror movies, but the moment I need to interact with something, things become problematic because I typically freeze up. So, like, I can't do survival horror. It's just too much for me. So, as a youth, and I played one game for maybe an hour and change, which was Silent Hill 4: The Room. And an hour or two of gameplay led to literally months and months of pretty consistent nightmares. Like that game, and I was so afraid of it as a kid that seeing the intro cutscene now, like, it literally makes my, like, skin crawl. Not that I'm scared of it anymore, but just, like, the trauma associated to it. And again, it sounds melodramatic, but I swear, like, if you're that scared of something as a kid, like, that has, like, long-term effects on you, I swear it does. And so, like, yeah, I still can't handle that game. I have not even played it that deep. I don't know what happens in it pretty much, like, past an hour. But again, it's too much for me. I can't handle it. I get overstimulated. The second one is probably the only one on this list that I've played front to back, and it's Corpse Party, and specifically the PSP version of it. Now, this is a horror game that is scary in a different way. There's not really kind of like jump scares and stuff like that. And unsettling is kind of dismissing some of the narrative choices they make in it. What makes Corpse Party so different, so scary, is just the sheer hopelessness of it, and how there is no silver lining to this story, and it's just horrifying front to back. Like, have you played Corpse Party before?
Very little. I think you ended up showing me some gameplays on YouTube and stuff. That's really my only exposure to it.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like a top-down. At the time, it's like pixel art. Since then, they've gone 3D, I think. It's a quaint-looking game. It's not something that looks that horrifying. It's not that different than you'd see of a lot of that kind of 16-bit era RPGs that you'd see on like the Super Nintendo, Genesis, and then eventually like the Game Boy Advance, for example. Art style-wise is not that different. And it's kind of very, it has the aesthetic of an anime, and since then has been adapted into an anime. But it's just horrifying. It's about like these kids stuck in basically some kind of time loop void inside their school, and slowly are just dying one after another in the most horrifying ways. And it plays on some really, really dark themes, and it's for sure like a psychological horror. And there's certainly its fair share of gore and stuff like that. But it like breaks you down psychologically to basically communicate that anything that you love and anything you come to appreciate about any aspect of the story will be snatched away from you, and it just leaves you sitting there. Like, I remember credits rolling on it, and I was just kind of sitting there like, why did I do this to myself? Like, there was literally nothing good feeling while going through this game. So I wanted to give a shout out to Corpse Party. If you're not into hopelessness, maybe avoid this game. And then the last one is one that is pretty much well established as one of the scarier games, especially of the modern era, and it's Dead Space. I bought this game not knowing what it was at the time. I thought it was a sci-fi game with probably horror elements. I knew there was horror elements, and I saw some of the marketing of it, but for some reason, maybe because I was a little bit younger at the time, it didn't really like resonate in my head as to like what this game actually was.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought like top level, maybe you're looking at like a space sci-fi Resident Evil, and what I got was way worse than that. And not worse as in quality, worse as in like subject matter. Like that game is horrifying. And there's something about like the fact that it's a newer game, so the combat is fast, it's visceral, it's scary, you die quickly, you die in horrifying ways, and there's just things coming out, and you don't even have the chance to like catch your breath in a way that like on the PS1 horrors, things are clunky, things are slower, so things are more methodical, so you have like reaction time and stuff like that. But in Dead Space, it's very different. You don't know where the enemies are coming from. You don't know if you're going to turn a corner. If that's the last corner you're going to turn. Like this game is horrifying. Have you played Dead Space before?
So I've only played a little bit of Dead Space 1. I do have it installed because I do want to play through it. And I think I can do it. I do remember, I played it at one time. I stayed the night at my brother's house when I was younger. He had it on 360, and the fact that you are a regular Joe, Isaac is a mechanic, right? He's there.
Yeah, and he has like his armor and stuff like that, but besides that, he doesn't have any military skill.
Yeah, he has no military skill. So the fact that he's using like regular tools, drills, and those weird laser things, like it's so methodical. Where you have to kill enemies, and the fact that you're just so underpowered. Like this is not what he's trained for. He doesn't just go super soldier for no reason. Like he struggles as much as you're struggling because he's just a regular guy. It's not his job to be killing these things. All right. So it's not his thing to be doing this kind of stuff. So for it to just be like thrown in, and I think the atmosphere, and obviously this takes a lot of inspiration from Aliens.
No, for sure.
The stranded ship and things like that. So I think that atmosphere also just the claustrophobic nature of it is also really amplified it for me.
Yeah, it's like the scariest parts of like Alien meets Metroid.
Yeah.
Like if Metroid was a horror game, it'd kind of turn into Dead Space.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like you just do not have the weaponry and the technical know-how to attend to the situation that they're trying to throw at you. So yeah, man, scary games, not my cup of tea.
No. And the only other quote-unquote horror franchise I want to give a mention to, and it's gotten way past where it is now, is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
Which is not something I really enjoy. I do enjoy the lore from the earlier games and stuff like that. But I think it's invented a franchise, not a franchise, a gameplay style, which is kind of that sitting in a spot, controlling monitors, being, again, a regular Joe. You were just like a security guy at night. And, it's that style became so popular that Aliens created a game just like that on the iPhone. And it was actually for free not too long ago.
Oh,
and
really?
It's, it's weird to see, something that was, being inspired in a circle where that had small elements from Aliens and stuff like that inspired, and then they go ahead and take that gameplay back. So quick shout out to them, because I do enjoy that franchise. It's gotten way out of hand now, but I did enjoy.
How many are there now? It's like 6.
A lot. There's like a lot. There was like a reboot, and then like they ended it, and then there was like sister stores and stuff like that. It's nuts.
Wow. All right. Yeah. So great show. We almost right under the hour and a half mark. So I don't think this is our longest show, but it's getting there.
No, yeah. And as soon as more announcements come, it's starting hefty. It's gonna get some hefty discussions here.
Yeah, we're always doing that predictive, like our next gen show is gonna come one day, and for the most part, it seems like we're gonna have pretty consistent Xbox news monthly. But eventually, and hopefully June, they're talking about now that PS5 reveal will happen, and that's gonna be major.
Yeah, we're gonna have hopefully some substantial stuff to really get into.
Yeah, but till next time, this is the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabrell, and I am with
Steve.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Take care.